All right, Trevor, we're live. Welcome
Yo,
to the Super Spectrum, episode 3, everyone. So, we're doing Eddington today, and yeah, total mind bender. So, you know, buckle up, guys, and yeah, we'll review it, and then get into some nice spoilers and talk about some of our interpretations. I really love the movie. I'll start with that. Trevor, how did you feel?
yeah, I don't want to say surprisingly good, but it was surprisingly good.
Awesome. It's always good to be surprised and
Yeah.
have that surprise be good.
Yeah.
So, I'm a big fan of alternative uh, media and conspiracy theories. And, you know, I feel like this movie is all about other people's opinions. Everyone's different, how everyone's so opinionated, especially during that COVID era. Um, and this this movie has conspiracies at its core. And I wrote this down. So there's unanswered questions, and it doesn't always make sense, and maybe some of it isn't supposed to. So um, we're gonna really tear it apart, but hopefully so that we can build back better. Um, you know,
Yeah.
I think Trevor's gonna really blow my mind on some of the things that he picked up on. He already has. We spoke about it a little bit before, and then that kind of opened my mind to on my second viewing, which I just got back from today or tonight. It really, it helped me make a lot of other connections that I didn't the first time. Um, Although I knew how deep and um, I knew how much I loved the film the first time. Um, but yeah, Trevor, or really, yeah, my review, it's basically a movie made for me, like I just said. So I loved it. Ari Aster is like probably my favorite director right now, at least when it comes to younger directors. And he's, well, I guess yeah, I'll say he is my favorite director, but as much though that word's that's like it's like saying he's one of my best friends
Hmm.
because he's one of my favorite directors. Anyways, I say this a lot. It sounds redundant, but he's equal to my other favorite directors doing it right now. So, but being young, it's amazing because I know that he'll have many other films for me to enjoy, and I look forward to it. But the movie is like very very suspenseful. Hopefully, you know, the audience, you as an audience member, are able to follow it. Because it is pretty fast, but it's not as like surreal as his other films, at least as surreal as Beau is Afraid was, and actually love that movie just as much. Um, but yeah, this one, it's just you got to see it to believe it, basically. So maybe I'll leave it at that, and then 10 out of 10. Trevor, you go ahead. What do you think?
So I've the only Ari Aster movie I've seen to my knowledge is Midsummer, and so I'm not as familiar with his work, but I've read about it and seen videos about it, and I've heard that it's a lot of surrealism and that's really what I liked about this one is there's some surrealism, but it's also so I have some things written down here. I'd say this movie does a very good job at capturing the moment that we're currently in, as well as obviously the pandemic, which is not an easy task, I would say. It's only been 5 years, and it showed some obscure sides of our culture in a way. What I really appreciate the most, and why I really like this movie, and what was surprising. I wasn't surprised that he made a good movie and whatnot. I was surprised that it didn't fully judge any one side while still showing how insane we all can be. And the only consistently, maybe this isn't true, but I wrote this down. The only consistently reasonable character seemed to be the native police force, or like the reservation police force, who, ironically, in the first scene, are kind of on the side of the system with the whole mask thing, and which is probably intentional. But later, let me see if this is a spoiler. I'll just say that one of the police officers is that's from the police force. He's one of the most reasonable characters who can kind of see the truth through all the chaos in a very chaotic situation, actually. Every other character embodies these emotional states that we can all relate to, either personally or with our friends or family members. And again, I really appreciate how this was done in a way that didn't villainize any side, which would have been easy to do, and didn't give the audience or any side of the audience, politically or whatever way, the ability to be like, oh, see, I was right all along. Like, which is kind of where I was afraid a movie like this would go. But it didn't do that. It perfectly kept it, like you said, left it up to not even interpretation, just kind of it is what it is. Yeah, it wasn't even like mysterious in that way. It was just like, look at all these people. Like we're all kind of like that. No one's perfect. And a few more things here I've written down.
Can if you're at a good place to pause
Yeah.
really quick, Trevor? Sorry. I love first of all what you brought up with, and I agree. It doesn't, and I'm gonna talk about it too, but nothing is like confirmed, and that's kind of how conspiracies are, and that's how life is. You don't get anything confirmed to you, pretty much. But um, when I'm this is a slight spoiler. Stop the video. Go ahead, 20 seconds if you think it's going to bother you. But well, actually, no. This is a pretty. There's multiple. This give me 30 seconds if you don't want to hear spoilers, and then I'll go thumbs up when you can turn the volume back on for anyone who's not wanting to see a spoiler for now. Basically, that in the Native Americans being in touch or like down with the narrative of the masks. And then at the end, being also one of the Native Americans is sitting at the speech for the opening of the data center. um to me that was like they're in touch, and like you were saying, one of the characters, one of the officers who's a Native American, he's in touch with the universe and life, and they're kind of in touch with this necessary kind of step in humanity, this, and that's why they're in with the narrative and the data center. But it's it's like they're there for the birth of it, and we're gonna get into the symbolism of like the data center, but because we spoke about it a little bit earlier, but basically it's almost kind of like how I'm relating them being there for and being in touch with what needs to happen. Meanwhile, like a lot of people are going against this thing in the film, including the main character. Um, they are they are representative of kind of America and um, like the spiritual version of America that is going to kind of ascend. And it's kind of hard to relate, but and to wrap your head around, but there's something I'm feeling and intuiting that this is how like Red or the rabbit character Lou, his wife, won't have a child with this with Joe Cross, this old version of America, the old guard, but she will have a child with this alternative or like and kind of like artificially spiritual man who um even though it's not real spirituality uh like the Native Americans, it's at least a step beyond what Joe has, which Joe Cross, the main character, is kind of just on like base level, like I'm the man, I got to control things, even though he is a very like he has a lot of empathy in the beginning of the film. He's not fully like aware, and I'll get into it, of things that are in control of him and that he'll never be able to be in control over. And so um what's his face, the cult leader guy who is artificially awakened, who kind of has the uh um or who has the baby with Rabbit, he is at least able to be a leader in this new society that America is having, of where everyone is artificially intelligent. And because that guy, he's actually able to be a leader in that. Meanwhile, we see what happens to Joe at the end. But that was like a scramble, and hopefully we'll go back onto it later. And I feel like I might have had like a more straightforward version of that, but thumbs back up. And I'm sorry to interrupt you, Trevor, but
No, you're good. No,
it
that
was
was
like
good.
a crap I had to take.
Yeah,
I was like, I don't if I don't take it at this moment, it might come out like worse, or it might not come out at all. So
right.
I felt like I had to. So I'm sorry.
No, that's a good intuitive perspective. I think there's something there for sure. Although, like, I think you're right that that is what's going on in reality as well as in the movie. I just, yeah, so I just really didn't like his name is Vernon,
Mm-hmm.
and I just don't like the idea that that's where we're going. But that is where we're going. Like, um, the so the last thing I have here for the review at least is um I said I can't speak for everyone, but it left me feeling surprised and slightly confused, but in a good way, because it again seemed to represent the real world and times we live in, which again is super impressive to me. To I hesitate to use the word perfectly just because it means perfect, but I would he perfectly did encapsulate that time, which is so hard to do but important because I think it reminds people. not only what happened through the pandemic, but it reminds people that not only that that happened, but we're still like not much has changed. Like with the aspect of the phones, everyone's living in their own algorithm in that movie, but also in reality. And that's not something that has changed since the pandemic. That's something that would kind of really was born in the pandemic. It maybe wasn't born, but it solidified in the pandemic, and now we're still dealing with that. And so this was just a really important movie, I think, to show people where we're at and remind us like we have to wake up a little bit more. And with all that being said, this will be by far the highest score I've given so far on the podcast. I would give it 8 out of 10 only because I'm thinking of movies like that are perfect to me, and that would be like a 10. A perfect movie would be a 10. A 9 would be almost perfect. This is pretty much almost perfect. I really don't know why I'm giving it an 8. The only reason I'm giving it an 8 is because in the future I know there will probably be more movies that I like way more. But that is to say that this is pretty much a perfect movie. There's um maybe a little bit of criticism. I don't have this written down, but maybe the reason it's an 8 is like and this isn't even criticism, but the ending was very chaotic, like I said, in a good way. But the Antifa funded spoilers. Um,
Spoilers.
we can
Entering
enter
spoilers.
spoilers. The Antifa clearly like uh how do I put it? Like
They're called
system
Antifa terrorists at the end.
right, but how they're funded by the establishment, I guess I could put it. Like they're funded by a big group. Obviously, they've got a private jet. They've got like a bunch of machine guns.
Hmm.
They've got bombs. Um, so that was cool, kind of. But and I like how it wasn't clear who they were or where they came from. The only part that's confusing to me, and this is probably where Ari Aster his surrealism comes into play, but
Hmm.
to me, while watching it, I didn't understand like, and I still don't. How were they connected? Like, so Joe Cross does these murders where he tries to frame an Antifa person. So did the establishment were they aware of this and then sent people to further
No,
um
I don't think so.
because they were also Antifa and they said so he's this is we're in spoiler territory obviously. He spray paints no justice no peace on in the house of the people he murdered,
Hmm.
and then they set up this bomb with I have a cool symbolism thing with Guy that might be a little stretched, but I'll say that in a second.
Okay.
Um, yeah, like how did they did the fire that said no justice? Like it was clearly connected to his murders. So it was like were they
Oh, okay,
further
okay, yeah.
I wasn't sure and they didn't but I do like the way he did it. It was just a little bit too random for me like
Right.
but I like how it wasn't explained. It just that part like could have been explained, but I think maybe it's self-explanatory. Like they're I think the whole message with the Antifa people to me was like, with all this going on, same thing with the tech group, all this chaos with the mayor and the sheriff and the mother-in-law and the cult leader and all this stuff, the Black Lives Matter girl, the Black Lives Matter kid.
Hmm.
There's all this chaos going on in our lives, and then above all of it, there is this establishment that's funding this like fake terrorist organization. That's the part that's confusing. The terrorist organization part isn't well explained, but like I said, it doesn't need to be. But the cool part that is well explained is by the opening shot and the closing shot is like throughout all of our lives, the one thing that is going to see through is the tech company or like the the whatever it may be. It may not be tech. I mean, in our world, it's clearly. tech as well, but it could be replaced with a lot of things. But
Pedro
the
is,
one,
or Pedro Pascal says that he's like, this tech company is going to come no matter what, if we're in on it or not, if we're making money off of it or not, and they're going to bring in infrastructure that's going to help. It's basically an infrastructure is kind of like the society and the the roads, the bridges, it's like the platform for society to stand on. And like you're saying, it's like there's technological advancement that's coming no matter what, and humans are either going to go against it, merge with it, or be replaced by it. But no matter what, it's coming. um and it probably will be more of like a merging, and less fear around that merging,
yes. So I have a few symbolism things I've wrtten down, but then we can probably, they're not that deep.
Okay.
So
But Trevor,
we,
can you turn off your fan, because when you're not
oh
talking, it,
yeah,
yeah, goes.
give me one sec here.
And really quick, I think the Antifa slogan that was later written down in fire, that could have been, yes, from the crime scene, but I don't know if anyone saw that, especially in this, or even if it's this organization that's, like you're saying, above everyone. Um, and it could have been just like something that he kind of, Joe took that as a slogan probably that was already being used. So maybe it wasn't fully connected with that. But no, I do think, they probably, I can't remember exactly what scene they kind of get flown in on, but it's like, yeah, they're probably hearing about what's going on here, and they want to make the best of this chaos to be able to turn it into something that is going to benefit their goal the most, or their goals the most, their agenda the most. And I think that they, whoever is funding this thing, like you're saying, it we don't know what it is, and that's what half of all conspiracies are, right? And that's the part where you just start imagining, and that's probably what Ari Aster wrote it as, because he doesn't know what, the extra, you know um element that a lot of us see, you know, being, outside of everyone else's perspective, like the outside of like the politicians we all know, like those hidden people, like maybe, doing these terrorist things or whatever. Like we don't know, and we're not meant to know. Well, of course, that's certain, but that's why we don't know. But like, in the movie, he probably doesn't know exactly the extent of what this is. He probably just has a feeling, like all of us do, or anyone who is of that feeling. But yeah, didn't want to interrupt, but just had
Oh, you're
those.
good. No, I'm glad.
And it's dreamlike, like uh no, like he doesn't, like, it's, yeah, I don't know.
No, that was a great um scene. I was almost convinced that it was about to go down the direction of him being schizo and these weren't real, and he was shooting
Mm,
it at either nothing or like civilians. I'm glad that it wasn't, because one, that would have been super easy, and two, um yeah, it adds this surreal but also real
right.
element of like um what is going on, like you said, um something a bit more like connecting it to our personal lives that was really crazy. And you kind of referenced this earlier in the beginning. This is like a movie made for you in a sense. This weirdly, like as soon as it started, not as soon, but some of the first scenes, as soon as the mother-in-law enters in the movie and she's talking about gematria, or like she's
Mm,
watching a video talking about gematria, I was like, this is so weird how it reminded me so much of when we first met in real life, was right after the pandemic, and we talked about all kinds of stuff like that, about basically all the stuff she was watching on her laptop.
Totally.
And I never thought I would see. That's what is so impressive. Like why I keep going back to like why this is an impressive movie, how he captured that moment in time is like I never thought there would be a movie that talked about a lot of this stuff, let alone a movie that actually showed what it was like and put in some truths and on both sides like it put in the Black Lives Matter perspective. I mean, I'm not too that was one thing I found funny that I actually wanted to research. What that I didn't understand was I understood, but I'm not familiar with when the girl was talking about to Brian about at their little protest. She's like, "What we're doing at best is white uh, culturalism or whatever." I don't know what she was talking about, but I wanted to see what that was. Like, she had clearly there's clearly like a hierarchy of like white um, salvation or something. I don't know what you would call it, but she had all these terms that I thought were really funny, but also interesting. But back to
Hold on, I don't remember what that was about.
so they're at the protest and there's small protests and she's saying basically like we should be at the bigger protest
Yeah.
and he's like well I don't even remember what he said in response but she's like what we're doing is like this level of anti-racism. I think that's what she was saying.
Yeah.
We're not yet at the level of anti-racism, but that's the goal. What
No,
we're
the
doing
goal,
is
she said the goal was, I think she said what we're doing is anti-racism. What the goal is white abolitionism.
yes, 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 yes.
I was like, okay.
That was funny. The one that I was talking about this to you earlier on the phone, like the
Hmm.
stuff that I would laugh at and the stuff that everyone would laugh at. Everyone lost it when clearly when when Brian like confesses his or he's trying to explain to his parents um his newfound beliefs about white oppressors and whatnot, and then his dad just is like, "That's fucking retarded. We're white," or something like that. And but that scene was the that's not even a critique, but like that scene was it was perfect. It was hilarious. It was a
Right.
little cheesy how like they had guns on like the dining room wall. I get what they were going
Yeah.
for. They were trying to explain like his family is clearly like far right
Yeah.
or at least more traditionally conservative.
It could be libertarian. Yeah, totally. Yeah, no, I feel like yeah, I feel like that was an amazing scene
Yeah.
because like there is no like definitive like Ari Aster feels this type of way, but it's like and you know some people will say, oh, it's making fun of, this or that, but no, it felt like it just felt real. Like one of my notes was like I'll read it for verbatim because it was um Eddington felt very real. Even though like you were saying it's surreal, but it also has these it's just as real, at least if you have this sort of extra, way that you view the world.
I would I would even call it not even surreal, it was like hyper real, which made it surreal.
Mm,
Like it's just like
that's funny.
showing yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Like it's really just emphasizing what's going on in reality, which makes it feel like, whoa, what's going on? But it's like, no, this is like a lot of people's other than the like murders. I mean, for some people that is their reality, but like for most people, take away the murders, this is like a lot of people's lives.
Yes.
Um
And is it on this note or are you going do you is he going to
I
go
was
into
gonna yeah, yeah, you
okay,
can
really quick on this. My mom she was saying how it kind of like she was surprised and like she really liked how it was going, like with the mask versus non-mask people, like all the way through. And then like she felt like it kind of went off the rails. And she said it kind of, was unrealistic. But then she was like, she said this without me even bringing up anything. She just goes, well, yeah, it could be, like a lot of it could happen, or like, and that's how I feel is like there was the autonomous zone like where people took over, like the entire city, or whatever in Washington. And of course, that was probably the Antifa with, helping hand of whoever. But there was that happening. I could totally see like this, and especially how they do it, like perfectly at the end where it's like all of this stuff happened that, you know, um, the way it's represented in the media is not actually how it happened, you know? It's all twisted, and that's like it literally turns into a conspiracy, you know? Like,
Right.
but the thing is like you would probably only know exactly what happened if you were there,
Dude,
you know?
that's amazing. I never even thought about that. The one thing I thought about before you said that, like earlier today, I was thinking about how like it's crazy. I forgot that like while I watched it, I was like, oh shit, he essentially got away with those murders. Like I forgot about that. They probably assume that it was this Antifa group or something. And um with what you're saying, that is so deep and crazy because that is true. That's how everything that happens in the news is like we really don't know what actually happened. And that's so wild. Like really didn't think about that. And
Yeah,
that is now in their world in that universe is a conspiracy to the viewers like um yeah, like Joe Cross actually killed those people and now he's the mayor of Eddington and overseeing the
wow.
creation. Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
So
Yeah, brother.
I have a couple, they're not that deep. That's probably the deepest point I've thought about with this movie yet. There's a lot of things in there. I would have liked to see this movie again. I probably will watch it again, but yeah, we've only done 3 episodes, but this is the only one that I will probably watch more than once. Well, maybe Superman, but
The film, right? Yeah. Okay.
yeah.
No, yeah.
So I thought that these ones are pretty simple, but then I have one that's kind of a stretch but interesting. Um, the simple one is like there's like this theme of lack of control with Joe Cross with his wife, but also with the masks. And I thought it was funny he has asthma. Like and there's like he's suffocating essentially, like from
The
this lack of control.
lack of
Um,
control. And one thing I wrote down is the more that he lies, the sicker he gets.
right.
Hmm.
And then there was yeah, and then he ends up getting COVID from the homeless guy, which that he
Hmm.
kills, which is pretty interesting. Cause I did think he was gonna die from that. That would have been really kind of I wouldn't have liked that as much, but I did think he was gonna die when he's having the asthma attack while he's like fighting these people and has COVID. Um,
Really quick on that, the homeless guy is actually what opens the movie. I know. I told you, since you said you might have walked in a little late. You did walk in slightly late. You walked in
no,
at
I
the
saw
sun.
that too.
Oh, you saw
He's
him
standing
mumbling?
outside and the sun is either rising or setting. It's
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
dark out
Okay.
and he's
Yeah,
out on a mountain yelling.
totally. Yeah.
Yeah,
I think I wrote down some of what he says, which is actually a lot of what he says is totally smart.
I bet.
Yeah, yeah. But anyways, so he's not
Here,
that crazy, you know.
let
Go
me
ahead.
say this one real
Yeah,
quick.
yeah.
Um, so yeah, like he clearly loves his wife deeply.
Hmm.
Like he with the laptop, she's on his laptop, and when she leaves, he's like clearly really hurt. But it's interesting. Like I said, these aren't super deep. I have one that's kind of deep. I'll tell you in a sec. But he's more focused on control and power. Like yes, he deeply loves his wife, but one, he starts to run for mayor knowing the state that she's in, and she leaves, and he really puts minimal effort into trying to get her back. He starts, which is, I'm not gonna lie, that's a relatable thing that I think it's kind of not a healthy masculine thing, but I think that's what he was going for. This is like an unhealthy masculine tendency to focus on something that you can control, even though he couldn't control it, but um, he focused on his mayoral race and trying to take care of the situation with the protests. Um, like I said, that's not that serious, but I just thought that was somewhat relatable and interesting. And then so here's the thing that's a stretch, but so Guy is the his deputy or whatever.
Guy Tooley.
That's crazy. I didn't know that. I didn't remember that. So this is where I say it's kind of a stretch because everyone else, although they may be right or wrong, and most of these people are other than the native police chief guy, or not chief, but police guy, he he's kind of got his head on straight. He kind of sees the truth even in all this chaos. Everyone else kind of has a distorted perspective. Um, but Guy, maybe I'm wrong, but he sort of seemed to have no, in a good and bad way. Like everyone else has these purposes, whether they're right or wrong. Like I said, Guy is just kind of following the lead in a sense, but not even like the system. He's not even following like he's following Joe Cross essentially. And who is not the best leader, not the worst leader, but so like no one's like a hero in this movie, and neither is Guy. And him having no real sense of purpose kind of led to, and being like an everyman. His name's Guy Tooley. Um, he ends up literally exploding. And the only thing that made me think of that is like, why did Guy die, and Joe, and I think the other guy's name was Michael. Yeah, why did they both die, or they both lived? I understand why they lived, but I just found it interesting that Guy died. And it's because him having no purpose kind of led him to make the choice of just like um stepping forward.
I was feeling that when he died, it was literally the rebirth of man, the evolution of man. Like um and I'll get into like what Joe Cross kind of represents too, but like I was trying like and Guy Tooley, like he's Guy, so he's all men, you know. He's just any man, you know. And that's the evolution that man in general is going through in this post COVID era, and or really post 2000, really post like postmodern era where we're
Yeah.
you know skeptical finally of the science and the uh you know um official narrative and stuff like that. So yeah, and he's a toolie, like he's a tool for Joe Cross. He does whatever Joe wants him to. That's some of the thing. And then I also picked up on like maybe like Joe, Michael, and Guy might be like a holy trinity, like a father, son, or father, son, Holy Spirit type thing. I mean, I have no idea, obviously, but or like a masculine, feminine, and then child, or union, a unifier, mediator, which that's one of the vapid word word soup things that the cult leader Vernon guy says in the beginning. He's like, "What if media is the mediator?" And he's doing the wordplay thing that like a lot of the truthers do. Myself included. I love the word. I love wordplay. I think they're a lot of it is syncretic, like divine, like art that literally helps you relate things. You know, but there's also wordplay in the Gunther's um yeah, the ammo store. It's called
Mm-hmm.
Gunther's, and they highlight gun,
Yeah.
so yeah. But I interrupted you, I think, brother.
No, 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 that was that. It wasn't really a succinct or serious point. I thought it was funny with the wordplay. Like I thought it was funny. His name was Guy, and he was sort of like a sacrifice, but like a meaningless sacrifice, which is kind of deep in a sense. Michael, yeah, there's something there with Joe, Michael, and Guy. I wouldn't go as far as to say it's Father, Son, Holy Spirit necessarily. Maybe it is if we looked more, if I thought more about it, but what I thought was really interesting is like Guy having real no purpose, just a follower, dies. Joe is seriously injured and becomes a puppet for the mother-in-law and for I found it weird how she seemingly went against all her values in the end.
No, no, but she's still talking about conspiracies at the end, which is great
Okay.
too. But she's an influencer, which is what there's that's like what's like the new leap, one of the new leaps in people. Everyone is a leader.
Right.
Um, yeah, keep
But
going.
also Michael is sort of this crazy character in the end who's like seriously scarred physically and he looks really although he's filming for Joe seemingly he looks pissed off or upset and in the end he's literally like still practicing with the sniper rifle and he's like yeah like hitting every target and I think there's something there with like he knows the truth probably
That
about Joe.
the scar is oftentimes a symbol for knowing, like no, had earned wisdom. You go through something, it changes you. That's the scar. The change, the transformation. And now you see the world different, or you know stuff like that.
Now, this is funny. Randomly just popped into my head. The only thing I predicted about this movie, because normally I don't try to, but normally with a usually a bad movie, but even a good movie, I can predict a lot of things whether I try to or not. Maybe I don't know. But the only thing that I predicted while watching this, like I could see where it was going, was that Brian was going to end up becoming like far right wing. Like because it was kind of that was the only maybe not obvious, but the only thing I picked up on is because like oh he's in love with this lefty girl and he's gonna change who he is to try and get with her, and that's obviously not gonna work. And so he's gonna swing way the other way. That was kind of a funny ending. Um, I didn't expect it to end like that, but that was kind of funny to me.
Yeah. I'm glad you saw that coming. It's funny, like when I watched it, I didn't see it coming, but when you watch it again, when you see him in his parents' house with all the conservative stuff, it kind of like maybe points you in that direction. Like he's like more of his true self, but like I'm about to say in the rest of this breakdown, you have to start playing a character. Even if it is just like you still need to get the attention of everyone. You need to be dramatized, and that's what Joe learns eventually. That's why he actually says even though he deep down knows that Pedro Pascal did not sexually assault his wife. That's why, um, because Joe knows that he needs to get more people coming to his rallies, he actually uh, that's why he decides to make up the Ted raping his wife thing. Um,
Real
yeah.
quick, Did Ted or did Joe say that, or you're saying he
No.
knows deep down?
Yeah,
Because
but he shows it in the movie too. He like Guy tries or Guy, when he finishes the speech where he says that Pedro or Ted raped his wife, he goes he goes to Guy, yeah, post it. Don't let me think about it. Something like that. Like,
yeah,
yes, because like he's gonna listen to his conscience and he's gonna not post it because he feels obviously bad going against what he knows to be or he feels bad lying. So
that's interesting. I did notice. I was wondering if because he did Ari Aster at least left it. He didn't ever fully. He did
right.
have Rabbit say
No, he had Rabbit not respond at all when Joe asks
yes,
um if she had been molested by her father or raped by Joe. She doesn't respond at all. And to me, I was like, well, you would probably respond, even though they're on icy water at that time. You'd probably respond,
yeah,
even in some way. But she was not affected. And then later on, and something Joe later on or before, but something Joe would not have seen. So it doesn't even support my point. But Ari Aster, I don't know exactly what you were going to say, but Ari Aster didn't leave it open. But, well, he still does because, Pedro or Ted is a liar in many ways, but it kind of shows a scene, like I said, away from Joe, so he wouldn't know and it wouldn't support my point. But it shows Ted saying, no, of course I didn't rape her or molest her, or I didn't rape her, and it seems completely real, like it seemed like, and Ted really isn't that bad of he's not even a bad guy, he just, and no one, he makes some bad decisions, or who the hell knows really what's the right thing to do anyways, that's the
hmm
thing, you know, but um, yeah, yeah, to me, he was being honest in that scene. Let's just say that, and I don't think he did that. But anyway,
okay. I wasn't going based on him per se.
hmm
Um, I was wondering if when she posted that video in response to his speech,
hmm
where she goes, "That's not my uh truth" or whatever she
but
says. Um, she said some weird stuff that it kind of gave me the feeling that Vernon was like telling her something. Like it almost to me sounded like that did happen to her, but she was learning this new like spiritual knowledge to where I'm not going to absorb that. That is not my. But that was
mm,
really just me interpreting that, and I
yeah,
think he did intentionally leave it up to
right.
kind of the viewer in that way.
That's my favorite scene is the dinner table scene where all of that stuff goes down, like about Vernon telling his story, right? Which
hmm
we don't know is if it's a lie or not. He looks at both of them like to like study them and see if like the both women in the room, like he looks at them to see, are you believing this right now? Like, and of course, if you're being truthful, of course, you also want to know if someone's believing it. But anyways, um, there was that. And then, like you're saying, he also said something about like, like you could love your abuser. Um, but, um, I think he might have been telling her to say something like that, or like get into that, like peaceful, towards even your abuser. But I think that maybe she wasn't even abused by her father, right? Because there's also evidence for that. Because when the other people say, I was abused at that dinner scene, right? She's talking about like they went through that abuse and like, but she's not saying that she did, it'd be a perfect
hmm
time, for her to, get sympathy. Not saying that that's why you do it, but she ends up loving Vernon, and and she doesn't sound like she's emotionally caught up in what they went through. So, but who knows? Maybe she was molested by her father, like it said, and you know, that would be, you know, um, I don't know, that could be it. And then, like you said, with the loving the person who's, your abuser or whatever, or
Mm-hmm.
having empathy for them, which that's something I actually, believe in as well. I believe, we should have empathy and try to put ourselves in everyone's shoes. Obviously, love from a distance, when the person is toxic in your life. But, anyways, that thing he's teaching is important to actually to learn. So, but it is totally left up to interpretation. Um, even what I tried to, you know, understand about that entire scene, like I said, that's my favorite scene. All of that goes on in that point or in that part. Um, because it really caught me because that is a huge you know, these characters, these people, like his cult personality, what they're talking about, with the sexual assault, like these are all huge things in our society. I was very tapped in on that part, and yeah, it's totally left up into to interpretation purposely, in my at least in my eyes.
Yeah.
Yeah, because another thing, Ari Aster can only speculate, right? So some of these things you put because that's how you've experienced them. You don't know, and I feel like he put it so that you can't tell, what's the truth here purposefully. Um. Anyways, what's your favorite scene, Trevor? If you have.
Um, Favorite scene. Let me think real quick. I'm not exactly sure. Um, it was pretty. Oh, when I don't know why, but this one really sticks out to me and like left me kind of being like, why did that happen? Why did he do that? I still am like, but when the video he gets the noise complaint to the party and he goes and he turns the music off and then Ted turns it back up. He turns it back down, he turns it back up,
Mhm.
and then Ted smacks Joe,
Right.
and then Joe just sits there. And then he smacks him again, and then he just walks away. Like,
It's the scene after he lost his wife, and that's also he's lost everything that he really, like, now he knows also that this rally is way bigger than his. He's not going to win the mayor. He's lost everything. That's literally the scene where he knows he's going to kill what's his face. And when he um comes in, collects the evidence or something like that, like tries to like clean up the crime scene, he's walking silently where he literally just turned off the music, remember, where and it has that
mm,
scene of him walking away, but now he has done exactly what he was thinking of when he was doing that walk away before.
right.
Yeah.
So I didn't fully think of that, but that is probably why that was my favorite. Like, um, yeah, like
And also I don't know exactly if he decided to kill them, but he's like, I feel like he did.
pretty
He
much.
he didn't know exactly how he's going to do it yet, but when he goes to the homeless person, kills the homeless guy, that might have also like been a point where he's like, okay, I'm gonna kill them, or that might have been just like the I've already done this, so I'm totally gonna kill them now. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Not obviously we're not in his head either. He
yeah.
doesn't say it.
Very shocking stuff too. I was not expecting it to go that way. I was
Right.
glad when it did, because the whole time I am thinking like, where is this gonna go? And
Mm,
then when I was completely shocked when he shoots the homeless guy, and even when he shoots the mayor and his son, like, but that's ultimately where it had to go, I guess.
right. Well, Yeah, yeah, exactly. Like Ari had that vision, and it's just perfect. Like, yeah, that is exactly it. It's where it had to go to make it all perfect. But uh, that what I just said didn't feel right. But I think you know what I'm saying, at least,
Yeah.
Trevor. I feel like hopefully they did too. But um, and also I'm trying to get my mind on the other things I want to say before this ends. Um, is that cool if I
Yeah,
run
yeah,
through them
yeah.
real
I'm
quick,
pretty
Trevor?
much good to go. I'm glad to hear what you have now.
Okay. So one of the things that you told me after the first time you saw it, and which was also after the first time I saw it, um, that I had in my head to then watch, then have in my head while I was watching it the second time. One thing you told me, and I don't want to speak for you, but I'll paraphrase. Um, you told me that the Native American character had he kind of saw through the fog, and right something and you
Yeah.
said it in the review already, but yeah, he was seeing it straight through, and that started making me think about something. But example for that really quick, one thing that in the second watch I saw, he actually combs through the entire crime scene desert, which is like almost probably a mile away from where the guy, was, eventually had the bullet kill him, Pedro or Ted. Um, the Native American character, which his name is very important. Um, that Native American character who, like you said, saw through everything. He was able to, like he says, get a needle in a haystack, and it's very quick on the, within after the crime happening. It's the morning after, so but he was able to see that needle in a haystack. So, anyways, excuse me, the his name is Butterfly, all right, and
Yeah.
that's symbolism for having a soul. Athena, gave man a butterfly or something. But anyways, what butterfly means is that it transforms. So it's the caterpillar, the pod, and then butterfly. So it's a spiritual, or it's like a enlightenment, okay? And having a soul, like having the empathy, having the higher self. And I think that's she said that's what made man different or something. But anyways, he has that's why he has the name butterfly. But anyways, the thing that going all the way back, the thing you helped me understand in this movie, which I looked at more in the second run through, but after you told me what you said just now about the Indian Native American, it made me think of this. Oh, and then also you made me think of the magic, what's it called? The gold magic carp thing,
Yeah.
the data center. When you brought that up as important, which of course it is, the movie starts and ends with it, it reminded me to think about it more. And what I said it meant, before the second viewing, was that it represents artificial enlightenment instead of spiritual enlightenment. Okay. And the difference is one is, kind of, one is like through technology and like more based off of intelligence and awareness, of like multiple perspectives, but and it made through like the computer and like the data, that we all have through the phones that the data center is holding, in the cloud.
Mhm.
That's the artificial intelligence, or that's the artificial intelligence and the artificial um awakening. But the spiritual awakening, which they don't go through, um would be actually to, kind of what Vernon is talking about when, at least in my eyes, all is one. Everyone is connected. You hold everything sacred because it all is a part of God. It's a part of you. And that the universe is all connected. And so you have love for everything, right? And then obviously, like I said, you have to still and you try to go for the the greatest good for the most things or the most individuals because they're all part of one and they're all going to benefit from each other. But that's why you know they're not on that point yet, right? But anyways, so let me just read read where I was because getting really so it's solid gold Magikarp equals artificial enlightenment, not spiritual enlightenment. Um, the characters have all been artificially enlightened by social media, but none of them are spiritually enlightened, like the Buddha or Jesus, except for the Native American officer, Butterfly, a symbol of the soul, and through rebirth, the transformation of caterpillar to butterfly. Um, so he's the one who is, actually trying to do the good. He's not, doing it for ego, like the artificially enlightened people are doing. Um, and right, and that's why it's artificial. It's like not. It's like enlightened. Like you know more, right?
Right.
Like Vernon knows more, and like Joe starts knowing more about how to deal in this world. He's more enlightened than he was before, but it's artificial. It's not like the greatest enlightenment. It's like the it's not the real enlightenment. It's artificial enlightenment.
Right.
So yeah, but that Native American character, and like I said, like we were saying before, like the Native Americans represent like they are trying to really, find what's right for the people, kind of. And so is he. So um and so other couple of things that I have here will be real quick, guys. Um um okay. All right. So the Pedro or Pedro Pascal, Ted, he has the artificial intelligence or enlightenment to a T, right? He's smart and twists words to make the sheriff sound like he can't keep the sheriff's hired. And for part of his job, obviously, politician, that's what they do. But you know, part of what they do, part of what uh, a lot of them do, when they're in the confrontation in the beginning, though, Ted is putting this on display, where it's that like iconic 6 feet distance part where Joe is like 6 feet. He's like, you know we'll play by the we'll put if we're playing by your rules. Like if I'm gonna be a politician, like kind of. Anyways,
Mm-hmm.
he and it's not even that. It's just like, you know he's mocking him, but and then Ted breaks that 6 feet because that's not he doesn't care about that, pretty much.
Right.
Like he knows, like he does think it's real, like the whole COVID stuff is real, but he's not as crazy about it as he shows in multiple scenes,
Right.
as like maybe he's portraying, or at least uh the people who follow him feel how real it is. And so, but yeah, Joe thinks he's a better man and would be a better leader for the people, but he doesn't understand the inherent corruption in politics, like Pedro does. Right? This is the way that Pedro is smarter than him in that way, or more artificially enlightened than him. And Joe doesn't know about the 150 petition names needed to run when his sheriff, named Guy, tells him, right? Like, Guy comes up, oh, sheriff, and you need the 150. It's when they're doing the slogan part. And like, Joe's just like, oh, okay. He just brushes it off and it's not even really listening. But that's showing, symbolically, he's not aware of all of this red tape that surrounds the politicians that you need to. Meanwhile, he's like the old school, like, like, I old school way of thinking of, like, like if I'm more powerful, if I'm a better person, I'll just be, pick me, and so um yeah, so he's naive to the intricacies of the corruption. He believes in fairness, but life isn't fair. Similar to how he sees through the pandemic, but not the extent of the reasons behind it. And so, what else do we have? This is really the last thing I think. Um, Let me see. So yeah. So if you try speaking the truth, you have a low turnout, like Joe at the rally. Joe then sees this and has to lie about drama to get people's attention. This is what I was talking about earlier. And Joe knowingly lied about Ted essaying his wife or sexually assaulting his wife to get attention. He asked the deputy to post the. I already said all this, dang it. But remember that, and then this is where this all wraps up into a beautiful bow and a
Mhm.
beautiful you see how smart Ari Aster is when he's making this art. So in the end, he gets to be mayor, but he's not in control. Even if his own body, or sorry, even of his own body, because he's paralyzed, right?
Yeah.
That's like how far the symbolism goes. And other people are talking for him, his wife or his mother-in-law, like you said, but also the same economic advisor for Eddington that was Ted's like mouth like guy behind the scenes, writing everything that Ted says, which is what Joe says, and which is what is true, we see in the movie. But that guy ends up being, the guy telling Joe what to do in the car, and so you see he's part of the campaign, or he's part of Joe being a mayor. And so, but yeah, this is um like that like the let me see if I write it down. Well, it's a metaphor for political corruption and oligarchy. You know, you know. Um, Look up the word oligarchy if you don't know what it means. It's the government ruled by a small group of people instead of all of the representatives. All right, so and that's like the naivety that I'm talking about. Like Joe doesn't understand those intricacies, right? But meanwhile, um, people like Ted do. And anyways, last things. Um, Native Americans with Tico mind virus. Look up that book. Good. I also saw Elio. That was phenomenal. Um, and then yeah, that's all.
That's a
Well,
great um, final point because I did not. Although I mentioned it earlier, like I saw the theme of lack of control with the asthma and his wife and the mayoral race, but I didn't. I mean, I would have eventually realized, but this whole time I never realized, like, oh yeah, he loses complete control of everything in the end, like his body, and even he becomes mayor and he's not even in control of policy or anything. So that was a crazy final point, and yeah, I'd say this was a great pod for the one for the books.
for real, brother. And you made the most beautiful art yet so far. And that's obviously my opinion, but and your art has been beautiful so far. That's why I felt like almost
No,
stopped
you're
saying
good. You're
halfway
good.
through. It's been beautiful so far, but like you guys are gonna see my brother here, his art again for the thumbnail as he has already, but this time even better. So, in my opinion. So,
I'd say so as well.
and this is what I wanted to do last time. Should have done it with MetaHuman Macaluco. Go follow him. He's insane. Go follow my brother here, Trevor. He's insane. They're artists. My brother Steven, also an artist. They didn't see Eddington, but anyways, just us here, and I have some art on where bare truth is, wherever bare truth is, you find that, and yeah, this was one for the books, Thank you, Trevor.
Yes, thank you. Thanks for the compliments, the shout outs, and you're an artist as well. Thank you for your art and hosting the show and all that good stuff.
Would you like to put your name for your Instagram, Trevor, so they could see?
Sure.
Yeah, or
Yeah,
just say,
you can put it. I'll just say it. I guess if you want to, you can put it in the description. But if not,
yeah,
it's at Global Alliance of God. And yeah,
awesome.
you can
It's
find
not
me
glow.
there.
It's not glow bean.
Mm-mm, not
Oh,
anymore.
all right,
Global Alliance of God. It
got it.
used to be Glow Being Alliance,
Right.
but I changed it a couple years ago. But it's all the same. There's
Okay.
also I won't confuse it, but yeah, I got a few other pages. You can find them
Yeah.
from the main one.
Yeah. All right, Trevor. We'll end it here for them, and then we'll talk a little later. All
All
right.
right, sounds
All right.
good.
Super Spectrum out.